I want to ask you, I remember very vividly you speaking to everybody about the importance of not paying for college. And as we know, the college debt is through the roof. And, with President Biden and people are now trying to give, public student loan forgiveness and things like that. Why do you think a lot of people don't take advantage of scholarships? I know you were really pushing that hard until they get into college, and I guess based it off of the college setup if they can actually like not get in debt.
I think probably what I said when I was talking to your class or any other group of high school seniors was that your parents really love you, but they don't want to pay for college.
Right.
And there's plenty of money out there, but you have to go and ask. When we were talking about that thing that's behind my head, those who are afraid to ask for help usually wind up needing it. When you applied for a multitude of scholarships and probably got all of them, but I mean, there were people that got I remember we had a student in the Trans Tech Academy at the time before you named Leon Crow, who was a C student. He applied for every scholarship he could apply for and got hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships just because he was the only one that, if you're the only one that applies for a scholarship, you're the winner.
Yep.
And so what all students need to understand is there's money out there, especially for minorities. But if you don't ask, you won't get it. They're not banging on your door to give you money because somebody else will get it. So I think that, I still, whenever I'm talking to students in my exalted position as a member of the State Board of Education, always talking to students about, even the students, I'm still teaching at UDC and their freshman classes, and I'm still talking to the freshmen about making sure that because I found out, I didn't know anything about it. I went to college on the GI Bill. I didn't have any other money. I was still working. My daughter was born right before I started college, so I was my wife and I had another child right after I started teaching. But when I started applying for, I got a fellowship, a grant from the Faulkner Foundation. I started teaching in January of 1971, and I was awarded a fellowship to go to St. John's College in Santa Fe, New Mexico, all expenses paid for my master's. 3 summers, I went to Santa Fe, New Mexico for my master's, and I didn't pay 1 red cent for my master's.
Wow.
And in 89, I applied for a fellowship to work on my PhD and got the second version of the same scholarship that paid for my PhD. So, but you've got to find those things, and you've got to ask people to help you, especially if there are any. I'm probably not, but any high school students watching, go to your counselor should be your best friend in high school. Yeah. Period. That's the person that can really get you all that money that your parents will clap about. Because when they announce at graduation and they start listing those, or the award ceremony, and start listing those scholarships, the loudest applause is the parent in the room. Yeah, that's my baby. They're saying all that, but behind it, they're saying, I don't have to pay any college.
Right.
Because those, like my daughter, my oldest daughter, took loans out to get her. She's a doctor of veterinary medicine, and she went to veterinary school, which is really hard to get into. Took her a long time, but she took out loans for that, and she's almost finished paying off her loans now. But this thing that if it's ever passed, it depends on this election coming up, probably whether or not that'll be passed. It'll take a big weight off for her, but you can't count on the government taking away the loans. So you got to, and the loans are great. I mean, you're not paying big bucks for your loans. It's a long time, but it's an investment on yourself.
Right. So I want to talk about your famous quote, a man's reach should exceed his grasp. Why did you choose to really hone in on that quote, you know, in and out the classroom?
Well, if you had a picture of it, I started teaching AP with a class that started before school. We called it an 8 o'clock class, but it really started at 7:45 because I wanted to see my students every day, and we went on to block scheduling and stuff like that. And that's not my quote. That's from a poem called Andrea del Sorto by Robert Browning. And it's not, it continues on. A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or that's what heaven's for. But I've always thought that that whole concept of exceeding your grasp is how I've become whatever success. It's because I've tried to exceed what I could do normally. And it just so happened that capital A man's should exceed his grasp, capital P. You got A at the beginning and P at the end. So that's on the slogan. So that I can take credit for that part of it.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Right.